Let's have a look at the TI-83 or 84 graphing calculator. To turn on the calculator, we go to the bottom left-hand corner. That's your on key. Now, on the key on mine, you notice that I have a second key, which is blue. So anything that's above the key that's in blue, I would use that second key. And we will use that in this class. Now my alpha key is green, so anything above the key in green, you would use that alpha key. Now that one we won't use in this class. All right, so let's look at some basic things. Your operation symbols are down the right-hand side of the calculator. So add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Now if you look at the bottom, there's a minus sign that is in parentheses. This is not subtraction. This is a negative symbol. So these two symbols are not interchangeable. You have to know when to use one or the other. So this one means subtract. This one is a negative sign. So for example, if you wanted to take 3 plus -2, I would hit the negative key before I hit the 2. And then we don't have an equal sign on here because this key functions more than just equals. So we can hit enter and that'll give you the answer. Now, if I want to type in -4 plus 5 and hit enter, so I hit that negative symbol before I hit the 4. Now, if I try to use this minus symbol instead, this symbol means subtract. So if I hit that symbol first, you're telling the calculator to subtract. So when you hit that, your calculator is going to say, okay, I have to subtract from something, but what am I going to subtract from? So since you didn't tell me anything to subtract from, I'm just going to use the last answer that I had. So that's the reason it says A and S on the screen, because you have to subtract from something. And if you don't tell the calculator what to subtract from, it's going to take the last answer. All right, another key, if you want to clear what's on the home screen, this is what's known as the home screen, I can just hit the clear button and that will clear the screen. Now you might have to hit it more than once, it just depends. I hadn't hit enter yet, that's the reason I had to hit it twice. So another key we'll use on this calculator is this little key, which looks like a rooftop. That's how one of my students described it once. This is an exponent key. So we're going to talk about exponents a bit later on. But if I wanted to take, say, 2 to the 3rd power, I would hit 2, hit that exponent key. Now, on mine's the newer version, so when I hit the exponent key, it jumps up there as an exponent. So when I hit 3 for the 3rd power, it looks like an exponent. It's a little smaller and it's raised. Now, if you have an older version, it won't quite look like that. It'll have a 2, you'll see that little exponent key, it's actually called a caret, and then a 3. So it'll look a little different. So you have to learn how to use your calculator because even though they're all TIs, they are a little bit different. Now, squaring a number is something that's done so often that it has its own key. So if I wanted to do 5 squared, I can just hit 5, hit the squared key. You notice it puts a little 2 up there and hit enter. Now you can use the exponent key if you want to. So I could have done 5, exponent key, 2, enter. Same answer. All right, so if I want to clear the screen, I'm going to hit clear. All right, now a real handy feature on this calculator is that it will do fractions for you if you know how to put them in there. So students typically don't like fractions, and so in order to do fractions on the calculator, a fraction written, for example, 1/2. 1/2 in algebra is division. So if I want to put a fraction in my calculator, what I do is I got to hit the parentheses key, they're right here. So parentheses, 1 divided by 2. Then you have to close the parentheses. And let's say I wanted to add 3/4. So plus, open the parentheses, 3 divided by 4, close the parentheses, and hit enter. Now the default setting on the calculator is to write the answer as a decimal. Rule of thumb, if your question has fractions in it, you should write your answer as a fraction. So my calculator gives me the answer as a decimal, but it can turn it into a fraction if you know how to ask. So the way you do that is over here on the left-hand side, left-hand column, you'll see a key that says Math. If you hit that key, you notice number 1 says frac, that stands for fraction. So if you just hit enter, it'll choose that. Hit enter again, it'll turn it into a fraction for you. So 1/2 plus 3/4 is 5/4. And it works for all the operations. If you wanted to do, let's say, 2/3, so parentheses, 2 divided by 3, close the parentheses, times, how about 1/4, so parentheses, 1 divided by 4, close the parentheses, hit enter. It's going to write the answer as a decimal. All right, so if I want to turn that back into a fraction, I hit Math, enter, enter. I had a student years ago that I showed them how to do the fractions on the calculator. She said this calculator was worth $100 right there just because it would do that, because most students don't like fractions. Another key we'll use is the one that's above the x squared key. So above the x squared key, you'll see a square root. So if I want to do what's above a key, and mine's in blue, yours might be yellow or some other color. I think most of them are either blue or yellow. I have to hit the second key first, and then hit that key, and it'll put a square root symbol on my calculator. So if I want to do the square root of, say, 25, and then just hit enter. Or let's say I want to do the square root of 100. So second square root 100, hit enter. So in another video, we'll talk about what we mean by square roots. So that should be enough to get you started. These calculators do have power savers, so it'll turn itself off to save the batteries or the charge if you don't use it for a little while. Sometimes students have things on the screen and it goes off and they freak out. If you'll just hit the on key, it'll come right back on. That stuff will still be on the screen. If you want to turn it off yourself, you notice off is above the on key, so you can hit second, off, and it'll turn it off for you.